Alright, so this is my little presentation on arrays in MATLAB and basically how to create them, how to manipulate the arrays so that you can change the size to something you want, or change the display on how it's going to be from like a row vector to a column. And then operations with arrays such as multiplication, division, adding and subtracting, because those are a little bit different than, say, with simple scalar quantities. So first we're going to start with row vectors, used to create a straight line of elements. So basically it's what you see in this picture here. You have the 1, the 2, 3 separated by spaces, and that's basically 1D. And you can also create it by using commas in between, and that gives you the same exact output. You can also use a colon if you want to make, say, a whole string of numbers. And then column vectors, which are basically just lines straight down of numbers. As you can see there, instead of using commas or spaces in between, you just use semicolons, which in between each element, and that makes it a straight line, as you can see right there. Another method is to just simply create a row vector and then use the transpose command that you see down there, and that will basically take it from a row vector and turn it into a column vector. And then indexing. How to call forth a specified element in an array. Basically, if you want to pull out, say, the fifth element in an array, you can do that, because you want to just use that single number or something, you can do that. To do that, you just type the name of the array you have, followed by parentheses 4 and parentheses, and for example, in the array that I have, it would be 78. In the 78 is the fourth element in the number. You can also pull out a string of elements by using 1 semicolon 4, and that will pull out 1 through the first element through the fourth element. To change or add an element, you can simply just do the same thing as you did up here, except you just put an equals to, and that will change the fourth element, which is a 78, into a 2. Next is a matrix creation. A matrix creation is basically combining the idea of a row vector and a column vector. So you separate elements that you want on the same row by commas, and then when you want to add a new row, you put a semicolon, which moves it to the next line. And then matrix indexing is basically the same concept, except for this you have to enter a row and a column number. So for example, we put in 2, and that gives us the second row, and 3 is the third column, which would give us 5. Next thing we're going to cover is dimensions, and there's several commands that associate with this. The first one's length, the next one's size, and the length basically tells you how many elements are in a vector, or if you use it in an array, it will tell you how many rows or columns there are, depending on which one's larger. And then the size command, when it's used on arrays, will return the number of columns and the number of rows. And the last one is the numeral command, which will tell you the number of elements in an array in a vector. Next is changing dimensions, and you can use the reshape function to basically change from a 3x4 to 2x6, and that will change your output. And then you can use the flip LR and the flip UD, and the flip LR basically takes whatever on the left and moves it to the right, and then the flip UD basically takes whatever on the bottom and moves it to the top, and vice versa. The last thing is mathematical operations with arrays. Arrays can be multiplied by scalar quantities by using just your regular asterisk and your slash mark for division, but when you're multiplying an array by an array, you have to use a period before the multiplication sign or the division sign, and if you want to add them, you can just simply use a plus or minus.